Today we're going to unbox a big flyer, Stripe 29-incher. And in this video series, this is going to be like a 3 or 4 part video series. But in part 1 here, we're going to specifically focus on unboxing it. Like if you got it at home, what to look out for when you're putting it together and how to assemble it correctly. Because we get a lot of bicycles from SE in the bike shop that are not really assembled 100% correctly. So we're going to give you some tips and tricks. And then after that, part 2, 3, and 4, we're going to add some Mura hydraulic brakes, so watch out for those videos in the future. And we're going to change out some of the componentry of the SE bike, talk about the bottom brackets, the chain rings, chain ring sizes, how you can swap those out, and how to change your seat post and your headsets and things like that, including tires. So stay tuned, but we're going to go ahead and unbox the SE Stripe 29er, the big flyer, and put it together. Okay, so when you're unboxing your SE bike, it's going to be all kind of connected and things like that. And we use the box itself as a stand. So this is just a trick you can do at home. We do have a bike stand, and we're going to use that in a minute. But we're going to kind of unclip everything, and you're going to need to have like zip tie cutters or scissors of some sort to get that bike apart. And we see there Aaron's kind of like just unclipping everything. Handlebars are separate. Seat post is going to be inside the box along with there's another package in there that has the different pieces and parts like the pedals and things like that. So we're going to go ahead and get this apart and get ready to put it up on the stand. So in the stand, we're going to go ahead and use our seat post. So when you put your seat post on, I always recommend lubing up the seat post a bit. That just keeps everything from, kind of rusting down the road if you get rain or get it wet. And then we kind of take the seat post. If you got a bike stand, you just clamp it to the seat post. Bike stands make putting together bikes super, super easy. And we love putting together bikes, even though we put together a ton of them. From there, you just unscrew your stem, and there'll be 4 bolts up top. Just take that stem apart, unscrew those bolts, and get ready to put your handlebars in. You need to turn that stem forward. Pay attention to the bottom there of the front of the bike, how we got it set up. But most importantly, when you get those stem bolts out, you want to get some anti-seize grease on it. We see in the bike shop a lot of bikes where the headset is actually seized. The bolts are rusted into the headset. So we just put a little bit of anti-seize grease in there, and that'll keep your bike from rusting together down the road. Now we go ahead and put those bolts back on, but pay attention to what Aaron's doing here. He's going cross to cross, like a cross pattern on the stem. So you don't want to just do all the front and then do all the back. You kind of want to do them diagonally and use a crosshatch pattern when tightening. We get those wheels on, and the next important thing on the wheels is when you put the wheels on it, and again, pay attention to where that dropout is. It's to the front, but there's these little latches, these little pieces, kind of washers that have hooks on them, and we're going to put those washers into the holes, and that's like a safety thing in there in case they get loose. Your wheel doesn't completely fall out of the front there when you're doing wheelies. So you want to make sure you have those washers in place. Take that, you know what that is. We just get rid of that. And we got our pedals out now, and again, anti-seize on the pedals. And you can always tell there's a shortcut here which side's left, because left sides always have like some sort of line on them. So, or they're marked left and right, but if you're ever in doubt, just look for the lines. The left side will always have some sort of line on it, whether it's a crosshatch line or a line on the screws itself. You'll be able to tell. And then the other thing to pay attention to when you're putting the pedals on is the pedals always turn. They tighten by turning to the front. When you're looking at it over the top, they're turning to the front. So left and right are different. And again, we see this in the bike shop a lot. We see bike pedals that get screwed on wrong and stripped completely out. And if you strip your pedals out into your crank, well, you're going to need a whole new crank set if we can't rethread it. All right, putting the brake on is pretty simple. There's one long bolt. I like to put the brakes in the front. I've seen them in the back, but the front's where they're supposed to go. And You just go ahead and tighten that bolt, run the main bolt through, tighten the nut on the back, and you're ready to go. Now Aaron runs the line. You got to run that line right into the brake housing. Again, a big mistake people make is the line is sitting outside the brake housing. It's not seated all the way in. But we go ahead and take that line, run it through the brake area, and then open up the bolt to the bottom. And then here's another look at how the brakes work. There's 2 slots inside that mechanism that Aaron's turning that you're going to run your brake line through when you set up those rear brakes. And you get everything lined up just like that. Open the brake line, and then the little piece on the brake line, the round piece, fits right in there. But a common mistake we make sometimes too is we don't unhook the back end. So when you get your bike in, go to the back, unhook the noodle so you have more room, and then come back to the front, run that brake line all the way through those slots that we got them nice and lined up, and then go ahead and turn the slots, tighten them back up, and then drop the brake line back in. So all set. So we put the noodle back in, and voila, your rear brakes are attached and ready to go. Now Aaron's going to set up the front brakes here, and he's going to show us a little trick. When you get your front brake set up, you're going to loosen those pads, and we're going to go ahead and compress them against the rim before we tighten them back down. So loosen both sides up, compress it against the rim, and then we'll tighten those brake pads back down. And we want to do it for both sides. Loosen up your pads, go ahead and adjust them, tighten the brake system down with your hands, get them aligned up, and then retighten them back down. Now, an interesting thing can happen on brakes is that wire line can stretch over time. So even if you line up your brakes here over time, the line can actually stretch. Cable stretch is what we call it. And when you have a cable stretch, you may need to pull the line through and tighten it a bit more and adjust it over time as the cable stretches. But we do have a shortcut to kind of get around cable stretch. 75% of the time it works all the time, but we'll show you how we do that here in just a minute. So right here, we go ahead and tighten the brake pads all the way against the wheel rim and then tighten the cable down. Then we're going to go up and we're going to depress the brake as hard as we can. Get a real hard press on the brake lever, and that's going to stretch our cable for us. Couple presses there, and then voila, look at that. The brakes are at the perfect adjustment. We took all the stretch out of the cable. You can do that with the back also, and it's a really quick trick to get rid of cable stretch and get the brakes in line properly. So the last thing we do here is with the cables, we cut the cable. We have cable cutters that work really, really well. You know, you can just use some regular cable cutters, but we're going to need some sort of crimping device. Now, you can buy a special crimping device that works really well for these cables. We have it here in the shop. But if you have a pair of needle nose pliers, those will work too, just not as good as these professional crimping devices that really get those cable ends onto the and keep them on the cable. Okay, we just get rid of some of these stickers. Don't need this sticker. And there it goes, right off the bike. Get rid of that thing. The other thing we do is we check the tension. So sometimes when you get your SE bike in from the factory, I mean, that cable is really, really tight. You can ride like that. I mean, it's fine, but I like to have it a little bit looser. So what we do is we loosen the bolts in the back, and we're gonna just kind of take some of that tension out of the line. And we're talking here just a little bit of tension. It's not a lot. Now, if you want to put your posts on the back, you got to kind of loosen the wheel anyway. So this is a great time to loosen that chain up just a bit. And we got our bars for the back, our wheelie bars. And there's a couple things again I'm going to mention one more time. We want to go ahead and put some of that anti-seize on there. And then you, of course, need an extender to reach down into those bars there and put that screw in. So once we get like both bolts on, I think I said screws, but I meant bolts. You don't tighten them down all the way because remember we have to tighten that chain. So those bolts that are holding those bars on in the back, your wheelie bars or kick bars or trick bars or whatever you want to call them. We are going to go ahead and pull the wheel back, get it tight, the chain tight, so it's a little bit looser than we had from out of the box, and we're going to tighten the rest of it all the way up. And then lastly, from looking over the top, you got to make sure your wheel's centered in the middle of the frame, and the chain is tight enough, not super tight, and the brakes are aligned, and we are all set with the back end. And of course, lastly, we got to put air in the tires. We got to fill them up so we can go out and do our tricks, not riding on flat tires. You know, and then do the front tires, and then tire pressure is kind of up to you. You know, go ride it, see what's comfortable. You know, they can be too hard and they can be too soft. If you're too soft, you're going to pinch your tube. Your tube's just going to make an impact against the rim there, and you're going to get a flat tire. So find the pressure is not too low or not too high, depending on your riding style. Then with your stem caps off, we go ahead and take these, I call them bullets, your little bullets for the end of the stem caps, and put those on. Just kind of adds a nice little cool factor. And you could buy many different types of these that fit your style or design, or, you know, what you like to do. So that's the quick build for the SE bikes that we do. Usually it's not too bad, but again, remembering the important part, which is using the anti-seize grease, because when the older SE bikes come in, and if there's no grease on those bolts, man, it is a bear to get them off. It is really, really difficult. And sometimes we're snapping bolts. So the next part 2, we're going to do either the Mura hydraulic brakes for the back and show you how to do that, or we may change some components out and see how you can easily customize your SE bike. So until the next video, part 2, talk to you again soon.